Urgent from the front. The Russians are going crazy, terrorizing Putin's army. These videos are tearing up the internet. Pokrovsk gritted its teeth. The occupiers are resorting to self-destructive tactics. They're charging with tanks against their own. A lightning operation in action. Is the enemy really retreating? All of this in our episode. Hellish Point. The Russian army is retreating from the hottest section of the front. Enemy armored vehicles are taking out their own Ukrainian drones. Here, the occupiers are afraid to look back. The eyes of the armed forces of Ukraine are constantly hunting for them. The second army in the world is turning into a target. How are our defenders managing to fry the enemy in our material?
Sometimes it reaches the point of absurdity. That is, there was a recent incident when a Russian armored personnel carrier, which brought infantry, crushed this infantry when it turned around. That is, they could water, so this task. He understood himself that this task was a complete failure, to put it bluntly. He was so scared that he didn't even wait for the infantry to properly disembark. He immediately turned around and started to flee, running over his own infantry in the process.
However, I do not feel sorry for my own soldiers. However, the Russians attack and destroy our forces and costly equipment. This includes drones. The enemy's forces, as well as their equipment, are very costly. We're talking in particular about reconnaissance drones. Representatives of the Rubish team are doing this in one of the hottest areas, and are doing it with the help of inexpensive FPV shocks. I suggest what it looks like, and we, in particular, visited their workshop. Next, let's watch the story together. Donetsk region. The alarming sound of the drone isn't frightening this time. We're at an improvised training ground. In the sky, a Ukrainian FPV. It's designed to work not with ground targets, but with enemy reconnaissance drones. And this is the laboratory of the Rubish Brigade. The most interesting things happen there.
Right now, I'm disassembling the FPV to modify it with a video transmitter for our needs.
The need one is to make it so that the drone can reach the Russian Orlans, superchems, and so on.
We rely on digital in video transmitters, but here we have an analog one.
We either process them or we stitch them. We improve their communication. Because they're on Earth, they also fly far, but at low altitudes, we work more at high altitudes. We're just improving the communication, enhancing the image.
Behind Sergei, there are several special hit targets. About the FPV drones. At that time, there was no talk at all.
During the full-scale invasion, I encountered them at the Antonov State Enterprise, where on February 24th, we managed to destroy 2 Ka-52 attack helicopters, then attack helicopter Ka-52. Then our brigade has already been transferred to the Donetsk direction, and in the Donetsk direction, we managed to destroy 2 Su-25 attack aircraft.
Right now, the planes that Sergei and his comrades specialize in are different. Smaller in size, but not in importance. At an altitude of 3 kilometers, it's extremely difficult to find such a target. The enemy paints their own drones to match the color of the sky or the terrain. And they are also technically improving.
Enemy. I started installing some devices in the halls so that they could record us as we flew towards them. It has become a bit difficult to fight in the halls. The Orlans are, let's say, drones with motors that aren't very maneuverable. It's easy to fight them, but it's the same with the opponents. Until places, they haven't come up with anything for that.
Successful work creates a kind of sporting excitement, says Serhiy. But every change there is only for the good.
We shot down so many there. We shot down so many of our batteries created for so long. Well, during this period, we've shot down quite a lot. This is a plus or minus. There were more targets shot down before the military ads.
Currently, the enemy is trying once again not to risk expensive scouts and is operating from territory covered by its own Rebs. The fighters of the Rubish Brigade also need reliable electronic warfare means. You can help acquire them using the QR code you see on the screen. Oleg Hendrickson, Viktor Zelenkov, Windows STB program, Marathon. The only news.
A wave of Russians is advancing on Pokrovsk. Fierce battles are taking place in the Teretska area. The armed forces of Ukraine are working hard. The enemy is trying not to show that it seems the occupiers are whispering that their end is near. Ukrainian defenders have not carried out such counterattacks before. We'll tell you more about the details of the operation later.
The enemy tried to advance in the Kharkiv direction but was met with resistance. Footage from near Vovchansk. The fighters of the Scorpion unit from the Guard Brigade were hitting the enemy's bunkers with drones and mortars as they tried to establish themselves. Noticing the birds, the enemy shot at them to bring them down. It didn't help, confirmed destruction of 14 occupiers. In the Kupiansk direction, our defenders destroyed reconnaissance UAVs of the type Hall, Orlani Supercam. The enemy's drones were hunting for the positions of our defenders. However, the pilots of the Condor drone battalion eliminated the aerial scouts. The drone operators of the 3rd Assault continued to scorch the Russian infantry from the buildings. The day before, they flew to enemy hideouts on FPV. They also hit a concealed cannon and a truck. The warriors of the Charter are also eliminating the enemy to destroy the equipment and ammunition depots, and the enemy tried to advance in the Lyman direction. The fighters of the 66th Separate Mechanized Division recorded how the occupiers tried to go on the offensive but got nowhere. One was eliminated by a strike from a Ukrainian FPV drone, while the other shot himself after being dropped from a drone. The fighters of the Slobozhansk Brigade also showcased successful hunting in the Siversky direction. In a month, 30 enemy UAVs were hit. Most of them are spy drones. The border guards have achieved significant success in the Kramatorsk section. The fighters destroyed a self-propelled artillery unit, Acacia, 3 tanks, UAV control point, cannons, 4 units of enemy vehicles, and a number of enemy hideouts and infantry. In the Turkish area, the enemy is systematically attacking to improve their position. The soldiers of the Consolidated Patrol Police Brigade in their area of responsibility are thwarting these attempts. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Spartan snipers are taking out groups of Russians. The fighters are acting in coordination using drones, artillery, and small arms. The snipers are observing day and night. They hit all the targets they see instantly. And these are shots of the strike drone operations. Dobush's Hornets. Their FPV drones burned 2 enemy armored personnel carriers to ashes. The fighters tracked them during their movement and eliminated them, along with their crew in just a few strikes. There are clashes in the Novopavlivka direction. On the eve of the paratroopers, 79th Tavria Brigade. They repelled an assault by Russian armored vehicles and motorcycles. Our defenders destroyed tanks, armored vehicles, and the means of movement of the invaders, along with the occupiers themselves. However, despite this, the occupiers are not easing their pressure, throwing in forces to break through the defense.
The enemy continues to terrorize civilians. The day before, they again shelled Kostiantinivka. As a result of the shelling, a fire broke out. The emergency services extinguished it. With faith in the armed forces of Ukraine, Tetiana Litvin details Inter-TV channel Marathon Unified News. The Russians would have called it a fireworks display. In the dark, the oil refinery complex in Ufa is burning and exploding. Unknown drones worked perfectly. The Russians are whining, saying it's scary. Putin cannot contain his anger. Where did the drones create hell on enemy territory?
Videos shared by local pages testify to the scale of the fire. Residents of Ufa heard the sounds of drones flying before the explosions. At the same time, the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations reported alleged smoke at the facility. They say it's all due to production processes. And they assure that there is no threat to people. No information is provided about the injured or the deceased. However, analysts and satellite images confirm significant damage to the infrastructure, most likely partly due to the drone strikes on the facility. The oil facility Taude is on fire. The hydrocracking unit for oil distillates at the Bashnev plant has been damaged. 2 oil storage tanks and main turbo pipelines were targeted by drones. An emergency situation was declared at the facility. The Vufi oil refining complex is one of the largest URFs and is of strategic importance. It supplies fuel for the Russian army. Among its products are aviation fuel, diesel for military vehicles, and lubricants.
Ufa is one of the largest oil refining centers in Russia. In terms of overall processing volumes, the Bashkortostan region ranks among the top 5 oil refining centers in Ukraine.
The oil refinery complex produces 20 million tons of oil per year. According to analysts from the publication Defense Express, this facility is one of the largest producers of phenol and acetone in the Ural Federal District, and it produces 15% of high-density polyethylene. One of the main customers for its products is the Cheboksary Production Association. It specializes in the production of explosives, rubber products, and plastic items. And it directly belongs to Rostek. Last night, drones attacked other regions of the Russian Federation. In the Lipetsk region, drones were flying first and then explosions were heard. In Rostov, the air defense system was operational. At the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported the downing of only 7 drones, without mentioning the strike on the strategic oil refinery. It's worth noting that the Russian agency only reports the number of supposedly destroyed drones, not those launched or detected in the airspace of the Russian Federation. In just the last week and a half, similar strikes have hit oil refineries in Tuapse, Ryazan, and Orsk. For example, the Ryazan oil refinery is one of the largest in the Central Federal District. It provides a significant portion of the domestic fuel market along with military needs. Against this backdrop, Reuters reports that Russia may cut oil production in the coming months, as these attacks have disabled about 10% of the oil refining capacity in the Russian Federation. Sofia Zelinska details Intermarathon TV channel Bar Unified News.
Panic, panic, and more panic. This is exactly what is happening in the Russian army. Putin's mercenaries are afraid to go to Ukraine and are shouting that they won't set foot here. Thank you. The command is shocked and simply doesn't know how to quell the rebellion. Will the second army in the world eventually fall apart? About all this later.
Stop! What are you chasing? Just... What are you doing there at night, kid? Stop! Open up, beauties, and that's it, and that's it. And let them go, let them all go. What they are taking from us, judging us there. I'm talking on the plane, there's a discussion, that's all. Shit. Thank you for the like.
All these Russian soldiers in the video are listed in the SSO, reported the Telegram channel Astra. The journalist learned about the incident from the relatives of the 7 soldiers. The men are from different military units, including both former volunteers and conscripts. Some of them have health issues, and some are moving around on crutches. During the investigation and trial for desertion, they were all taken to the Chelyabinsk region. From there, they were transferred to Yekaterinburg on February 28th. When the soldiers found out that they wanted to send them to war again, they were slaughtered. They demanded that investigators be called to them and then disappeared from contact for a while. And the very next day, March 1st, it became known that these servicemen were forcibly put on a plane to Rostov and from there on buses to temporarily occupied Luhansk.
Let Putin fight himself. The Russian prisoners admitted everything. They cry crocodile tears and say that they are innocent. The Ukrainian armed forces have already punished them. A double game has started at the front. All the details are coming up next.
Long states are working on it.
Long states.
Elements.
Yes.
A lot. 750, exactly.
750,000 elements. Yes. It's for so much that they push it in.
Finished off the enemy in the Omsk region, and they offered whether to go to prison or to fight. Later, to fight. I didn't do anything better. Nothing. Oh, what did they steal? Nothing. They stole a safe at the company where I worked. I woke up in the morning with a hangover at home, and the safe was standing there.
Was the meeting taken?
That's right.
What was there?
60,000.
42-year-old Alexander from the depths of Russia drank heavily for half his life, and when he was caught by court bailiffs for not paying alimony, he agreed to go to war. But it's pointless to complain.
Yes, indeed, only on promises. Like, we'll pay everything off, we'll make a card.
So they didn't pay you anything at all?
No, they didn't even make a card for me.
Since November, yes. There was actually some pressure from the commanders.
Already peace. They told us straight, both the kids and the old folks. Well, everything's fine. Meat. Well, the commander was hitting with a stick. 45-year-old.
For whom?
Because I'm doing poorly, I quietly avoid it, having put on the armored gear.
Andriy is also from the deep-rooted people, and he complains about the torture from the commanders. And he himself for sure was sincere. Even, you see, he was feeding Ukrainians in the occupation.
I gave them both gasoline and food, well, our military.
There's no house there. It was bombed, right?
And everything there is bombed.
Why is everything there bombed? Well, if not everyone lived, right?
That's our
What is bombed?
circles.
What tasks do you have today?
Delivering 200 from point to point.
Is it a lot?
Well, about 40 men.
What period is this exactly for?
In 3 weeks. The most terrifying thing is that when we found the bodies and could not find the head. I'm really scared here, okay? I was involved in the evacuation of the wounded and the 300s. I carried them out for our guys. I saw how long they had been lying there in the forest. I can't even say, but I saw that they were connected by letters. They were black with this term. Once when I was 18 years old, that was it.
Are you happy oak trees?
No, I haven't gone to the elections anymore. I'm not interested in politics.
Do you understand that even with politics, you're singing here?
Well, yes.
Tell me, what is Russian min? Which you are a bearer of, judges.
Slaves under Putin.
And a Russian min in this?
What I said is exactly what we do, precisely.
Why not measure in centimeters?
Well, I was running. Well, why did I run?
No, not at all. Society, state, no, specifically you. Why are you sitting there? They're driving you to slaughter. And you are such obedient people.
Work with captured people, agents and counterintelligence officers, SSU. They insist that they repent, have no idea about the future. They are here and they swear even more. Don't come back.
Why did we need to clash on someone else's land? I don't know. Shorten. Putin is fighting. And here we have fire points.
Andriy Pochev, Artem Dezhenkov, program host, STB Unified News.
Lightning landing. Everything is burning in Kharkiv region. Enemy drones are flying over Ruski. Ukrainian forces showed the occupiers where the crayfish hibernate. All of Russia's plans were disrupted in an instant. No one was prepared for this. It was powerful. Who is holding up our sky? This is what our story is about.
Russian drones are once again heading towards Kharkiv. Every night, dozens of drones buzz over the homes of residents in the city and the region. Near the border, a mobile fire group from the 57th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade spots them.
AR target, likely a Shahed. Azimuth 0, course 180, engaged, destroy.
After the bank, I was ambushed.
This video shows how, after several corrected shots, the enemy drone falls. It's no secret that the occupiers are suffering from mobile fire groups, and although the fighters try to maintain light camouflage, after a shot, the setup still leaves a thermal trace. That's why the fighters try to work quickly and get ready in just a few seconds. The installation is not new, however. A few months ago, it was equipped with new night vision cameras. Ukrainian-made.
The drones are very small, just 1.5, 2 meters. And it's very difficult to see them, especially when they're flying in the sky. So with the help of electronics, it makes our job a bit easier. The installation, although old, is rich with short arms. So it can shoot hard, but not very far.
A serviceman with the call sign Director from the Kherson region. His village, Askania Nova, is currently under occupation. He worked as a director there for 12 years. At one of the schools.
I communicate with the students right now. Of course, it's a bit more difficult to do this, but a lot. Who remembers me and keeps in touch. And there were even a few students who served with me to cover, for example, the position with fishing nets. So I reached out to my former students and they promised that next week a few dozen, less than 100, will come.
Another task of this mobile fire group is to cover the sky above the artillery installations. As of today, the Russians are actively using drones for their attacks. At the beginning of the invasion, there were much larger targets in the air for our heroes.
We chased after planes at the beginning of the war, but our installation is a bit outdated against ground targets. You don't sing. Physically, a person can't aim at the plane in time.
The air target is first spotted at the control point, and from there its coordinates are transmitted via radio to the fighters. Where is it much harder with the drones? It's not easy to detect them. For this, soldiers with binoculars are on duty around the clock at the positions. This is how the fighters intercept the image that the operator of the Russian drone sees using this device. Drones are not only destroyed using installations, they are also shot down by ground groups using automatic weapons and shotguns. The soldiers have dozens of FPVs and strike drones which constantly harass Kharkiv.
Shot down. It's lightning fast to shoot down. It's not as maneuverable, which is why it's easier to shoot down than the FPV. The FPV can circle around you a couple of times while you reload, but the lightning can't do that.
Along with the fighters on duty, there are also four-legged comrades.
He ran to us about 4 days ago. They named him Little Elephant. Yes, he got attached, we fed him, and that's it.
The soldiers admit that moving in and out of positions is risky. Even if you follow light masking and don't turn on the headlights, Russian reconnaissance drones detect any heat source.
The fact that drones with thermal imaging are currently flying around our vehicle, meaning the engine compartment. Right now, the temperature here is about 20 degrees. Against the backdrop of the snow, we look just like a New Year's garland.
For effective performance, the fighters constantly train at the training ground. They use a target here and a drone with a canister. Due to its small size, it's difficult to hit it. In addition to the Soviet equipment, they are also practicing skills on American Brownings.
Ground. Enemy DTR upon detection. Destroy it.
Fire, fire.
Drones help us acting as targets. And they significantly assist people in gaining experience and skills.
Working in a mobile fire group, I have the responsibility to ensure that the enemy doesn't hit residential buildings and infrastructure. It's something I take seriously.
And they shot it down in the rain. That is, one more is needed, and each time this number grows and grows. There is no one who has brought down, oh, that's all, I'm there, who's there, it's unclear who. I want to keep shooting down even more, as much as possible, because a lot is flying, especially the Shaheds.
That's all from me. I was with you, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more hellish news from the front in our next episode. Well, in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and like. See you